Hello and welcome to Kabbalistic Astrology. Welcome back to 2023, the world's weekly forecast. We have even a little bit more than only the week. And this is Matt Taylor. My name is still Nicola Ercolani, and we speak about the world's astrology, the forecast, including energetics, some spiritual tools. And so you get yourself like up to date to serve the wave of life and enjoy life with us. Hi, Matt. How are you this week?
I'm super good, thank you very much.
Lovely.
I'm just been looking at the astrology for the year, which is always very exciting. It's like Christmas. Well, it is Christmas, but it's an astrological Christmas. What's going? What's all happening this year, and what's popping? That's it exactly, isn't it? And I think our little YouTube venture and our little update about, our change in focus has been very good for us. Our podcast is expanding. We're getting more YouTube hits and probably more hits on the podcast as well. So that's very exciting. Yes, we're growing.
More people listening to us.
Yes, that's it. Exactly. So, all right, shall we make a start?
Oh, yeah, we absolutely have to.
Okay, so what I thought I would do first is talk about the planets that will be changing this year.
Oh, I love that.
So what's changing? And when we're talking about the planets that are changing for a year, as I always say, we're really talking about the outer planets, like Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, these kind of five. And then there's a couple of other little things that change that are impactful. The inner planets like Mercury and Venus and Mars, they're going through signs very fast, and they do have an influence on us. But if you detailed them all through the year, it's really too much information, and it's kind of what we do on a weekly. Yeah. So let's have a look at like, what are these big planets changing? Because we really haven't had any big planets changing for so long. It's like maybe since end of 2019, nothing's really, end of 2020 actually. So we haven't really had much change for a couple of years. Everybody feels it's the same circle. We're stuck in a loop, of like doom and gloom, hardship, right? So, I think people are ready for a bit of change, which is what we're going to start to see a little bit more. Which is quite good. It's like a little bit of change. We're also moving more into the middle of the decade. Yeah. So the beginning of a decade, or the end of a decade, is always about things that are ending, and the beginning of a decade are always about new things beginning, and the center is about things that we're going to focus on, things that we're going to cement, things that we're going to like put in the ground, right? So we've got all these, kind of the 2819 of it all was the virus, coming in to end the decade 2020. And then we've had 21, 22, starting to explore what could be new, what could be possible. And also 23, still with the new. We're still looking what could be new, what could be possible, what are the seeds that comes through after the finalization. So if you look at like the end of the 80s, there was a big recession. The end of the 90s brought the collapse of the technology and the bubble, the internet bubble collapsed. The end of the end of 0809 brought the big global collapse in the banking. And then this one was a health issue. So you can see a pattern there. The end of a decade always brings something that impacts, and then the new thing got to come through from that. So we are still in the new beginnings with 2023, but then 24, 25, 26, we're looking at what we're going to cement into the ground. So it's still a time for new beginnings, new thinkings, putting new seeds in the ground, maybe starting a new business or a new income stream, or starting a new relationship, or starting new travels, or whatever. You're looking at the new possibilities of your life after what's happened. So that is a big picture kind of feeling. One of the things that's going to change that will, be a significant change is Pluto. Pluto's been in Capricorn since 2008. and it will be there until the end of this year. It's very boring for an astrologer to talk about one planet being in a sign for 15 years. But Pluto does that, right? It's very generational. It very has an impact on a sign because it's in there so long that it really does a doozy on that sign. And the whole energy of Pluto is to detox, show you what's inside, show you what you couldn't see, collapse it in a way, and then rebirth it. It's a phoenix. It's the phoenix. It goes in, it destroys, it goes into the right, down into the guts of something, and then it rises up and it shows you, and you can clean it. Yeah. It also has a cleansing aspect to it.
Totally.
Yeah, it's very phoenix rising now. But Phoenix doesn't do the rising. It just brings it up and says, what do you want to do with it? I've just shown you all of the destruction, the decay, the whatever, the horrible energy inside of it that I've brought up for you. Now you can clean it. Yeah. So it still has an option of free will about it, but it really makes it intense that you probably want to change something. So Pluto in Capricorn was all about really three things: structures, traditions, and borders. Yeah. So these are the three themes for Capricorn. So structures being governments, banks, your daily structure, yeah. But really in Capricorn, it's kind of these hierarchical structures. Maybe you have hierarchical structures in your own life, right? It's detoxing all of those big structures, big corporations as well. Yeah. Traditions, and something like the royal family, for example, all this stuff that's going on, brings out. And it also happened around the world with one of the more recent examples is also the women in Iran, no? Yeah. Okay. So those kinds of things, those traditions not breaking down, but certainly reshaping themselves and questioned. Yeah. These are the new ways of doing it. This is all the stuff that was inside of it. And then borders, which we saw, with Brexit, we see with the collapse of globalization back into like maybe blocks of countries working together, or we still see it with Ukraine and Russia. No, so these kind of border ideas, when globalization has come to an end, I think that's the big one. And now we're sort of operating with supply chains that are smaller and being local again, and looking at how we're working more closely with our neighbors and all of that. So there's a shrinking. And also there's questions around Scotland, there's questions around Northern Ireland and Ireland coming back together. So, the tectonic plates of nations, borders. Also, I think in coaching, I think like your boundaries, your borders.
Boundaries.
Right. That was a big topic, right? Yeah, that's right. How do you structure your day? All of those things. So, what do you always do that you don't want to do anymore? All of that. That is very Capricorn Pluto. Okay, flushing out all of the things that are old. Good, old things are sometimes good, but they need a rebirthing. No, so it's very Capricorn. And it's going this year. It goes backwards and forwards. So it's at the end of Capricorn. Yeah,
29 degrees.
Yeah, very good. Sort of, it'll hang around the 28s and 29s. That's right. But it'll also be on 0 and 1s of Aquarius.
Already. Yeah. And then it goes back.
It sort of does this two times.
Yes.
Yeah. So
we get already a little bit a taste of what it will be when it's in Aquarius.
Yes, you're starting to get a taste of what it's like in Aquarius, and also the really end of it. And also we know, as I've talked about, last year, this year, that it really hits on the Pluto of the United States.
Yes.
And yes, so one of the things that happened this week is an example of Pluto where we see how it can show you how something doesn't work in the structure. So we know that they've had recently an election on the lower house, and the Republicans won by a small majority. And usually what happens after that is the Republicans choose who wants to be the Speaker of the House. But they couldn't agree. So there was 14 votes. And so now we have a Speaker in the House of the United States that's really weakened because he didn't really get support from his own party, and he had to negotiate with the extreme right. And so we see that very clearly all these trade-offs and negotiations and things that have to happen. Now, in the United States, the Speaker of the House is the second most powerful person in their system after the president. So it's not like in Europe where it's the Speaker of the House just says who's speaking next, setting an agenda and keeping the time and all of that. This is a big deal. So it's weakened the United States because now every time they go to put a law or a policy through, there's going to be a lot of rigmarole. So this is significantly hit now, the power of the United States, right? Because how do you just move your country forward big time? There's still the Trump aspect. There's a lot of things that are very extreme on the left as well in the United States. So there's all these kind of like competing forces that are all disempowering the structure.
I think what's really interesting is also that in many prophecies, for example, the prophecy of Nostradamus, I just went into that a little bit over Christmas and New Year's because I was really
very interesting.
These big prophets that were like downloading data like in the 15th century. And wrote books about that. In these prophecies was also written that this year the United States will, which didn't exist by then, but the area there will have war, and it will be one part of the population against the other part of the population.
Well, that's already happening in a sense. It may not be with arms, but ideologically.
Absolutely. I think that's the big, it was written, they will have how do you call these wars when you're in the country and there is a war? Civil wars. Yes, thank you. And it was written, it will be a civil war. But I mean, as a rebellion and as revolution today is very often not anymore a very physical fight anymore, but it's more a mental concept, because we're not in a very physical timeline anymore. Right. No. So at least in some parts of the world, in other parts, it still works different. But I think in this part of the world, the probability from my point of view that the United States will have a physical civil war, I see that as very low. But what I can see and what I absolutely can also foresee is that there is a mental war going on between the Republicans and the Democrats, but also like between blacks and white, between people of color and people which are white, the white supremacy discussion. Like I think that the rebellion and the war really is more on a mental level going on. And I think this is like very, like I can see that this would like slow down the whole country. Like that, this whole aspect.
Doesn't it?
And that's really interesting that you say that, how it's slowing down their ability to, get laws out, do what they want to do. Like it's really difficult for them to do that. So I love the great.
And they're also a lot border that they used to do. They're not so free trade anymore. They're becoming much more protectionist, which is what's happening with this Pluto Capricorn effect as well. So yes, I agree. And in fact, in the age of Aquarius, the most wars will be ideological, because the negativity of Aquarius is being ideological, fixed in your own mind about your own thoughts and never changing them, rather than the positive of Aquarius, which is consciousness. Open-minded mindfulness. That's the positive, and it also has the same negative. And you're right. So what will really lead to fraction, to separation, to war in this new paradigm is holding thought. And also the same thought. Do you know, not like a thought is good and you need a thought, not to say that, but you need to evolve your mind. No, you need to evolve your consciousness, not like shrink it in to get more holding on to this is the way it's going to be, isn't it?
And what you also see is a war in social media, like with Elon Musk buying Twitter, and they're like all showing the world that all conspiracy theories were actually true. I loved that interview. I found it so funny. It was like basically every single conspiracy theory that there was about Twitter, we unfortunately found out that it was true.
Yes,
And I was
things
like,
like
what?
that.
Like, that's so funny. And but also like with Facebook, with Meta that they call it now, with Instagram that controls the narrative, and with Instagram also that works really, really like people don't know what to do anymore, which use social media for their work, because there's no logic in it anymore. Like, you don't know what to do
Right.
anymore. With TikTok ruled from China, which is overruling everything. So that's really interesting. Also, the ideological aspect of how controlling is social media for the narrative of the youth, for the
Oh,
young
so
people.
completely.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Pluto will do when it goes into Aquarius, because Aquarius is all technology, humanities, socials, communities, all of that,
Yeah.
groups and technology. So we will, and of course, Pluto goes into the underground. It's the Lord of the underground. So we know that even with these social medias and all the ways that we use, and we can see internet, it's 1%, and 99% of the internet is beyond our use. So this is why we're starting to see the reality of Bitcoin, the reality of social media, the reality of technology. We'll get all of that brought up from the underground and like
Yeah.
food, yeah, and all of that will be flushed out. Also humanitarianism and all of these things like the United Nations charities. No, I'm not
You
saying they're not
know.
all of those things. I'm not saying they're not a good great thing, but they're, we will see more about them, and also equality. Like, we will see what is possible with equality, because my sort of take on it is that if you're a soul and you're coming in to do a particular work, you cannot be in the same reality as other people. You need different options. Like, I need to come back as a wealthy person or a poor person or a white person, black person, gay person, woman, whatever. You needed like different possibilities and options for a soul to be able to maneuver through things. So equality, while it's great in law and justice and fairness and all of these things, how much of that is actually possible, So, it will be more equalized, such as power will be equalized, because Pluto is power, and Aquarius is equalizing things. So you will have more access to government, maybe more access to local issues. Technology will play. Maybe democracy is opened up a little bit, or not. We might go completely the other way. Who knows? But we will see, right? Because Pluto in Aquarius is an interesting dynamic around power. One is power, which is Pluto has the reign over power, and Aquarius has the reign over making things flatter, energizing, and that. Now, in the world of work, right, for example, it's flattening out, right? There's not such millennials kind of prefer a more flat structure of working, where there's not too many layers of people over the top of them. So it could be possible that governments, local councils, all of that go that way and get a more equalized democratic society. I don't know, but those are the kinds of themes that are possible that we see. And yeah, and that's it. And all these big things about, sort of structures, governments, traditions, borders, all that bigger power play. Of course, the work needs to be done, because Pluto's just rammed a big hole in it. But then, Aquarius tends to make things more workable. Yeah. So we will see the new ways, and it's very progressive sign. It's a very forward sign, where Capricorn is a very backward sign, old sign. Roots, kind of, where did you come from? What are your roots? What are your traditions? What are your things that you bring with you? And then Aquarius flips you over into where you're going, where you're progressing, where is your future? Yeah, what kind of world do you want to create? So Pluto then throws you very, very far forward into saying, well, now what are you going to do with that? So this is another what you've just seen, right?
Very happy actually that it's coming in, with these little bits and pieces of Aquarius, Pluto in Aquarius, like that it swings in, and then you can already feel
Yes.
field, and then it
Feels.
goes out, and then it's like, oh, do you still want to like look at that, because that could like really support
Yes.
the next, and then it's going in again, and then you're like, oh, okay, maybe I need to clean out certain things as well. Then you clean them out again, and then it swings in. Because what I feel
Exactly.
really is this is the year for, like, when I feel into in Kundalini yoga, in the yogic science, this is the 7 year. It's the year of the auric field. So like also it's, and Pluto, what I really feel is Pluto allows you to unfold, you know, the bits and pieces in your auric field, which are not yet visible, which are blind, which are like mirrored within you, which are mirrored out, and you get stuff reflected from people from the outside, but you cannot see it because it's like folded together and it couldn't be seen from the outside. So what I would say is what's really possible for this Pluto going into Aquarius, getting out, going to Capricorn 29, then in Aquarius again, then Capricorn again. What it really does is it allows you to see, like, okay, where are my blind spots? It's a big topic in this year, these blind spots in the aura, because you don't feel them on the body. You know, usually when people get triggered, they can feel the trigger. They get angry, they get frustrated, they get sad. They feel the trigger, but the blind spots, because they're in the aura, you cannot feel them on the body. So you need to analyze them. You need to be very smart, and you need to be like, you need to see like what's reflected upon me from outside, and then whatever you don't understand a reflection, that's what's the trigger. That's what's the point that someone is showing you that you cannot see because it's folded in your aura. And that's, I think that's a major topic for this Pluto, at least for this Pluto.
Exactly, because Pluto is showing you things you can't see that are underground.
Yes.
Right,
yes.
That's its primary function.
Totally.
It's the Lord of the Underground, to go in and Phoenix under the ground and bring it up so you can see. And the thing I like about what you're saying is also that, you know, Capricorn is a very physical sign. So you can see from 2008, from 2023, we had global breakdowns, we had government breakdowns, we had conspiracies, we had what is that when you're doing the wrong thing? You're when you're in a place of power and
reduction of power.
All of those things, and people doing the wrong thing and they get found out, and I can't think of the word, but it starts with C as well. So, you know, so all of that sort of stuff, all these kind of things going on, big power plays, big stuff like that, you can see it, right? With Aquarius, it rules the atom, and it rules the metaphysical, like it rules the energy, you know. So we are really like going into feeling very much more like what's underneath my, you know, in my energy is, like you're saying, that are going to be shown to me in a field, right? That is totally possible, right? Totally, all of this stuff becomes very metaphysical. It's true.
And also the Aquarian age in yoga, we say the Piscean age, which we came from for the last 3,000 years, I guess.
2.5, yeah.
2,500 years. Was the age of wisdom, where wisdom was power. In general, the people that held wisdom held the power in society. And the Aquarian age, we say in yoga, we say it's the age of understanding the self, of experience. Like, people cannot tell you anymore what to do unless you have an experience. Like, you need to go and experience stuff, and then you can, if you feel something, and if you feel it affect, and if you feel it helps, and if you feel it does something for you, you stick to it, and if you don't, you don't. So also the time of the guru, the time of the big spiritual teacher is over. It's not about that anymore. It's about who provides an experience, like what is this experience doing to me and my incarnation, and if you have a good experience, you will stick to it. And then I think these old mystical schools like Kabbalah, like Kundalini Yoga, like some others that like some alchemist mystical schools, like they will all rise, I feel, like in this and now that when Pluto goes into Aquarius, I feel this is a big boost again for the Aquarian age. It will like lock something in that hasn't been locked in for hundreds of years.
Yeah, and Pluto will be in Aquarius longer than it was in Capricorn. So we're really going to get like 16, 17 years of this.
Wow. Yes. It's
A
really
lot.
locking it in.
Yes. And what also happens, I'm going to talk about one more thing. We might need to come back next week and talk about the other changes because we've spent a lot of time.
Yeah, we do the little ones, yeah.
Yeah. But we can also talk about Saturn going into Pisces in March.
Oh, yes. I would love.
Right? Because like Saturn is very different to Pisces. It's a very different kind of planet it offers different things to what the sign of Pisces offers. It will be there from March 2023. It will be there until 2026. In 2025, it'll pop into Aries a little bit and pop back to Pisces, but you know, that's a bit down the track. So in 2023, in March, Saturn goes into Pisces and it leaves Aquarius. And in Aquarius, there was like when it went in 2020, it's like showing, because Aquarius is very big picture, it's very humanitarian, it's very the globe, it's very everybody, but Saturn makes you do work. So, and it also brings up your fears. Okay, so we had a very big collective fear moment, right? That is very Saturn in Aquarius. The collective fears, you know, money, health, relationships. We all had the fears about it, right? Through, right? As a collective, not as an individual. As an individual, but also everybody else was going through it, right? We all went through the same things. You know, it's like that's very Aquarius, that we all connect to the same issue at the same time, but go through it in a very individual way. That's spirituality, right? So Saturn really showed us about how we as a collective go through the same thing, right? Yeah. And the virus helped us understand that whatever we think about how it started, what it did, it always comes with a purpose. And the bigger picture purpose of the virus was to lift us out into experiencing something as a collective. The same as this, you know, financial crisis, if you believe it's there, it's not really relevant. And what, you know, we're all experiencing the same thing in our own way. And that is very Aquarius. Yeah, like what you said, right? It's all my individual spiritual path in the context of greater spiritual thought, right? So Saturn does that in Aquarius. What does Saturn do in Pisces? So Saturn in Pisces is a very dreamy, very spiritual, very lofty kind of sign, right? Saturn is a very like, let's get real kind of planet. You know, what's really going on here? What's the work? What's the actual juice in this, you know? So it takes unrealistic dreams out of the picture. So if you think about dreams, what are big dreams? Dreams of my life, dreams of the way things go. American dream, European dream, capitalist dream, communist dreams, or whatever. Yeah. All of these kind of big dreams that we have, you know, that are completely unrealistic, not true, no, you know, all of that stuff. And it shows us which part of it is possible, which is really true, right? So it's a fall in a way, because we are always living in some kind of maybe like there's a reality of what we can achieve, and then we add on this kind of honey layer, which is all like this sort of sickly sweet stuff, like I'll be, you know, six-figure this and living like this, and well, do you know what I mean? Like we add this
I wrote those things down years ago.
Yeah, and it takes those kind of the lofty dream and the real dream, and it shows you that. So unrealistic fantasies, beliefs and dreams that are beyond attainment and not really for your soul, right? Because the truth of your soul is Pisces, yeah? And Saturn can help you like cut into what is fantasy and what is real for your soul. So we often, so like what your body wants and what your soul needs are two different things, right? Yeah. So So I have a teacher, a Kabbalistic teacher, always says that, and it's a great line, because we want things with the body, you know, the money, the looks, the this, the that. Maybe so you get some of it, but is it correct for your soul, right? For your
Yes.
spiritual process.
That's
So,
what I'm going through at the moment with leaving the house.
right.
A little bit. My body wants to stay in a big house with all these things. My soul is like, let's go travel.
Yeah, which is very Taurian, right? It's like we like the Taurian stuff that don't
Yes.
take away the earth from underneath my feet. I want to
Yeah.
know what's around me, right? Yes. Okay, good. So it's a great example, right? So I know myself as a Pisces, I can drift off into a cloud, right, when somebody's talking to me and I'm, you know, not here. So Saturn brings all of this stuff and it really makes it real. Okay, so what is your, you know, what are your spiritual goals? What are your spiritual possibilities? What is your true purpose of what you're supposed to be doing here and achieving and attaining? So you can always grow, you can always have a better life, but which bit of it is real and necessary? So it also brings in a more disciplined approach to spirituality, right? So if Aquarius is energy, then Pisces is the spiritual, right? The consciousness that you need to drive the energy.
Yes.
So we will have this Pluto Aquarius, Saturn Pisces for 2 years until 2026 together, you know. Of course, Saturn will go on and do something else. Pluto will stay in Aquarius for a while. But for those 2 years, they're both there acting in Aquarius and Pisces, really bringing a lot of discipline, responsibility. This is your path. This is who you are. This is your stuff. This is what you're going to achieve. This is what you're going to work on. And it's making it all very clear and focused and seeable. Yeah.
Lovely.
And also Pisces has a sense of victimness and suffering, right? Which is very me. So we want to suffer for me. I'm in the victim. What, I can't get out of this big hole and all of that. And Saturn just doesn't have time for a lot of that.
That's
so
like,
this case, it's going to help. Yeah, that's right. It's like, come on, we're not doing that work. We're not doing that today.
let's go.
Yeah, this is the reality of the situation. Let's be clear. Yeah. So it'll do that, but it's also got the other side of it where Saturn is kind of like helping the suffering, helping the people that are drowning in the reality, you know, who are not doing so well. Saturn comes in and says, let's do some work here and really helping people come up. And Pluto in Aquarius, as I said, is a flattener. So it helps the people at the bottom say, come on, let's move, let's get up, let's get out of here. So how that all pans out is like they're helping at the people at the bottom of the rung, helping of people that are fallen behind, helping of people who are not coping. It's very like mental. Yeah, it's very much in the mental, the anxiety, the mental health of it all, and it's very much in the financial. There's another planet called Trans-Pluto, which hangs around in a sign for 75 years. And Trans-Pluto is in Virgo. Virgo, it rules over like a sense of fairness, a sense of wanting to help, a sense of wanting to clean things up and clear things up. But it also rules, my theory only, but I think it works. It also rules under the more working class and the more like lower classes. And Capricorn, which is the other earth sign, rules over the middle class. And then the other sign, Taurus, rules over the upper middle class, like not aristocracy or royalty, but like up in the top. Yeah. So we have got a lot of planetary forces here that are helping to elevate those that are being left behind this year, those that are struggling, those who are not coping, those who are in a financially desperate situation, which is what we're seeing now. It's very in the realm of all of those kind of people. Yeah, it's very much in the face. So we will see like that for the next 2-3 years, how we can, you know, move things into a more of a reality, move things into a little bit more of a fairness and an equality, move things that are unreal into a reality.
Yes.
Clarity about that. And Pisces and Aquarius are both signs that are very concerned with the bigger picture, with the cosmos, with the humanity. They're not really concerned with the individual. Yeah. So we all are individual, we all have our own path. So but they're joining those two dots together. They're joining the dots of who am I in this bigger picture, what's my contribution, what's my sharing, what's my energy, what's my thing that I can do, you know. So it's all pushing us in a little bit more of that way, to share a little bit more, to bring a better energy to things, to help where we can, you know, is that
I think
so
that
yeah.
Saturn in Pisces is really, really interesting, especially because when I work with my trauma therapy clients, we always come to that point during our work where we need to speak about non-realities. And I think a lot of what's going on in the current dating scene, in the current spiritual, like these two big chunks, like the spiritual world and the dating scene, like there is so much non-reality. There's so much building like ideas about things and not looking exactly like what is actually done, what's the action behind it. And I think Saturn really helps with that in Pisces, to like to delete these castles of non-realities and to destroy them and be like, no, look, wait a second, what's the action behind it? What is actually done? What is reality? And so I think this will be super interesting, especially on a collective level. You know, if it almost looks a little bit to me like the Great Awakening of a mass awakening, because of
you
this,
get a sense of that.
Yeah, because of
definitely
this
get a sense of that. Yes, that's right.
And Saturn
you get a sense of that. Absolutely. You get a sense of like looking at quantum physics, consciousness, thoughts create reality, all of those things are definitely there. So yeah, we'll come back next week and talk about the other things that are going to change. We got halfway through.
Absolutely. That was lovely.
Thank
you very much for listening, everyone.
We will. All right. Bye, everybody. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.